Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Clara Z and I'm so excited to share with you a video about my experience at Chanel et Moi at Les Ateliers in Hong Kong. This was a super exclusive experience and I'm so glad to have the chance to share my experience with you today. So basically, Chanel et Moi Les Ateliers is a dedicated space to do care, repair, and alteration services for your Chanel products, including your leather goods, costume jewelry, and ready to wear. So other than doing repairs, they can also give you tips on how to maintain your items so they can last for an extra long time. So the reason why the experience was so exclusive is because there are only 4 in the world at the time of filming. So there's one in London, there is one in Hong Kong, and there are 2 in Japan, including Tokyo and Osaka. But they expect to open a couple more, including in Korea, because the demand for after sales and service is also really high in Korea. But if you want to visit the atelier, you can't just walk in. Basically, you need an exclusive appointment either set up by a personal SA or you could try booking online, but generally at the time of filming, it is really exclusive and has to be set up by an SA in Hong Kong. Now, the location in Hong Kong is in Central, if you're familiar with Hong Kong, which is where the main business district is. They have a floor in a fairly new building called the Henley Building. So the reason why I was offered the opportunity to visit the atelier was because I had several jackets I had to alter because I had gained a lot of weight during COVID and I had a lot of jackets to alter and repair within a very short period of time. So thank you to Chanel for repairing my jackets or actually altering them to some bigger sizes under a rush situation. Now, I didn't bring all my jackets to the atelier, although I could have done that, but they were able to kindly get the tailors to come to the shop and help me to expand several of my jackets. However, they mentioned that if I was going to be visiting the atelier, that I could bring 1 or 2 jackets for them to alter or repair if I wanted to. Now, because most of my jackets had to undergo some major alterations, meaning they had to let the sleeves out, the back, or even expand the jacket, I had given those jackets to them. However, I had a few jackets that still fit me really well and just had some loose stitches and buttons, so I brought that and I can show you what they did for that jacket later on in the video. Now, the atelier didn't allow for filming, but I tried to take as many photos as I could and I took down so many notes that I hope that I'd be able to share a lot of the information that was shared with me so that you can also have this exclusive experience through my video. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to visit the atelier before I left Hong Kong back in June. So if some of you are familiar with Chanel, they launched a program called Chanel et Moi and it was launched in 2021. Now this shop in Hong Kong, they opened in 2022. Now the idea of this program was a commitment by Chanel to be able to have a warranty, especially on your handbag goods, for 5 years. If it was not a handbag, they had something called a 2 years quality commitment period. So basically within the 5 years, if your handbag had any hardware issues, meaning anything like the closures, the zippers, the buttons, the chains or handles, or even some minor stitching repairs, they would be able to do that from the atelier. And of course, for ready to wear, they would hand stitch items that needed repair, or if you had accessories whereby maybe the pearl or the jewelry piece fell apart, I believe they can do repairs for that depending on the condition and if they had the parts to repair the item in question. So during those 5 years for a handbag, basically they would be able to repair it without any fees, but after the 5 years, depending on what it is, they could possibly charge you a fee for the repair of your handbag. And I also clarified that whilst they will do repairs in the atelier for your costume jewelry, they don't do repairs for the fine jewelry, and also they don't do repairs for shoes because they don't have any shoe repair people in the shop. Now, the shop that I went to in Hong Kong is dedicated for Hong Kong and Macau. So in general, I would say that if you had a problem with any of your ready-to-wear, you could go to the Chanel boutique in Hong Kong where you bought your ready-to-wear item. And generally in the store, there will be 1 or 2 tailors or seamster or seamstresses that could help you with your ready-to-wear. And also some of them would rotate into the Atelier shop so that you can actually go up there and get your repairs done at the Atelier. However, as I mentioned before, they do have a shop in London. So I asked them, say, for example, this Chanel jacket that I bought in Hong Kong, they have a record of it in Hong Kong. And say, for example, if I was traveling to London, can I get my jacket repaired in London? So it's a bit complicated because apparently the records are not shared amongst the countries. So they may or may not have record of me buying this particular Chanel jacket from the Chanel boutique in Hong Kong. However, they said that it was best to keep all the receipts so that when you went to the shop in London, they would be able to look up the item and see if they have the parts and the skills to be able to repair the jacket for you. However, if it's not being repaired in your home country, they could charge you a fee. So they always recommend that for any jackets that I bought from Hong Kong, that they be repaired in Hong Kong because they have a record of the jacket. So most of the jackets I own are from the Karl Lagerfeld era. So not all of them will have some dedicated numbers or authenticity numbers built into the jacket. However, based on what they told me, some of the newer jackets will have numbers on them so that each country will be able to look up the number of the item and be able to repair them according to the item number. When it comes to costume jewelry and accessories, they also have a team of people that will try to repair the item locally to the best of their ability. So basically, my understanding is that each Chanel shop will have 1 to 2 or more tailors per shop, and they will rotate between the local shop and the Atelier, and another place where they also have dedicated tailors that are doing repairs or alterations. And on average, they have about 10 tailors in Hong Kong that do work just on the ready-to-wear, and then they have special repairs people for the bags and also for the costume accessories. In terms of who they cater to at the Atelier at the current time, they only cater to the clients in Hong Kong and Macau. So for example, if you're in Singapore or Thailand, they will dedicate you to the local tailors in their shop. So the shop in Hong Kong is really dedicated to the clients in primarily Hong Kong and Macau. I also asked them if they had some haute couture tailors in the shop, but apparently it's a total separate team. And if you've ever experienced it, it's generally a team that will fly in from Paris. They'll take your measurements and basically custom your haute couture item, but that is a totally separate team and they fly in and out of Paris. Another really special thing about the Atelier is that they also have a program for apprenticeship where the master seamster or seamstresses will train the next generation of tailors. So in the old days, a lot of these Chanel seamsters or seamstresses would go in and they would work their way up. So they actually have 2 master tailors at the Chanel shop in Hong Kong. One of them have even been with Chanel for as long as 36 years, but some of the younger generation that have just come out of a fashion diploma or have been skilled in the trade have been with Chanel for over a decade. So the seamsters and seamstresses that are dedicated to Chanel only work on Chanel product, and it's not like they go to a third party to alter or repair some of your ready-to-wear. So these are very dedicated tailors that are specialized in Chanel ready-to-wear. So with the background out of the way, let's start talking about my experience at the Atelier in Hong Kong. So as soon as you walk in, you are seated in this beautiful sofa area and you have a view of kind of like the tailor area, the part whereby they're doing repairs on some of the bags and the accessories is hidden in the back, but you're seated in a beautiful area. And as usual, if you ever go to the boutique, they will give you some drinks and maybe some small snacks. So I sat there waiting for the essay, and of course there's a lot of opportunities for picture taking. So I've taken a couple of pictures of the waiting area for you to see. And as you can see, there is a tailor area. There's an area where they're displaying some of their iconic Chanel bags, and also you will see some of their iconic bags. And there are just a few photos of me doing a selfie in the waiting area. After I was seated, I was assigned an essay that came out to greet me, who gave me all the description and background that I talked to you about. And she gave me a tour of the atelier. Now, you cannot visit every area of the atelier. Generally, they will only bring you to the portion whereby you want to do your alteration and repairs. But they did have a lot of displays, so I just wanted to go over some of the display areas and the things I learned from visiting these display areas. So the first area I visited was this huge wall, and a lot of the items were shipped in from Paris, and it featured a lot of their famous fabrics, their trimmings of the ready-to-wear, the thread, embroideries, the buttons, and the Chanel chains, which you frequently see on the Chanel jackets, and other jacket accessories that came from Paris. It was really amazing to see the fabrics, because usually you see the final ready to wear, but to see all the fabrics all rolled up in one large piece, you can see how intricate and beautiful the fabrics are, and some of the threads are so beautiful. And you can see from some of the pictures there are some chains over the years from the Chanel ready-to-wear, so depending on the ready-to-wear item, it would be matched with a particular chain to the jackets. And of course, there were also buttons and other accessory parts that are used for their ready-to-wear. Of course, I took the opportunity to take a couple of photos, so I posted them here. So then we moved to another part of the display, which was the most interesting for me, because to me, for Chanel, what makes it for me is really the ready-to-wear more than the bags, may I say. But I really love the ready-to-wear, and I especially love the ready-to-wear from the Karl Lagerfeld era. And they had this section which was really unique, where they basically deconstructed a jacket so you could see what it looked like from the inside out. And this is not something you can usually see. What you usually see is the finished piece, and unless you deconstruct the jacket, you can't see the inner workings of the jacket. So this was really special. So as some of you know, Chanel was really a pioneer in the suit space for women, because at the time it was mainly men who were wearing jackets. So she made a suit that was made for a woman, and it usually consisted of a tweed jacket and also a skirt. Now, coming to the modern day era, you can wear casual things with your jacket, such as jeans or pants, but back in the day it was all about the tweed jacket and the matching skirt. So in the display that you can see here, they are featuring a jacket from winter 2018, and it's called Le Sage tweed jacket. And basically it was part of a runway show that was deep in the forest with leaves all over the floor. It was a really beautiful show. So if you haven't seen that, you can go back and look at the Chanel runway show for winter 2018. So this was one of the jackets, and you could see that there's a lot of brown, gold, black, and white because it was a autumn winter jacket. What was interesting to me was that a lot of the tweed is actually hand woven using a wooden loom. A lot of the tweed is kind of loomed or sewn together by hand, line by line using the wooden loom, and each line requires a lot of hand weaving because you have to string together the threads to make the tweed using different patterns, different tweeds, and different threads to make the final woven pattern. So when you see a piece of tweed from Chanel, it's not really something that is machine made, but it's actually hand woven thread by thread, line by line, so that the piece of fabric itself is already a masterpiece because it's hand woven and done line by line using some pretty traditional techniques. So the process of making Chanel tweed is actually pretty time consuming, which is where some of the value of the tweed comes from. Basically, they are hand woven using traditional tools. Another thing that I learned when looking at all the beautiful buttons is that all the buttons that they use are never repeated. So basically, during each season, they will produce buttons based on the themes or the styles, but they have never repeated any of the buttons since 1983. Now, when it comes to some of the tweeds, apparently they have been repeated during the Virginia era just because Chanel wanted to be more sustainable, and so they did recycle some of their older tweeds. But in terms of buttons, according to the essay, they never repeat the buttons. And if any of you own any Chanel jackets, you will know that some of the buttons are what really make the jacket. So seeing buttons on a Chanel jacket is always a highlight for me. As I looked further in the display, I saw many of the signature Chanel chains that are used to add weight to a jacket and allow the jacket to hug closer to the body. So this is very iconic of Chanel jackets. If you ever look along the hem, along the bottom of the jackets, there's usually some sort of Chanel chain. Now I've noticed that in more recent years, there's not always a chain for the jacket, especially if there are crop jackets. But for most Chanel jackets, especially in the Karl Lagerfeld area, there was always a chain along the bottom of the jacket. The next section of this area, you can see the jacket deconstructed. This was so special. And as I mentioned before, you can only see this when the jacket is taken apart. And they call this spacing. So they make space for alterations within the jacket, so the jacket can be expanded or tightened based on the spacing internally. So according to the essay, they generally can make the jacket bigger or smaller by 1 to 2 sizes, generally only 1 because they really don't want to alter the style or the structure of the jacket. However, I know that some of my jackets have been let a bit more loose to about 2 sizes, which is amazing, but generally they don't recommend expanding or tightening it more than 1 or 2 sizes. Next up, they featured an area where they showed me their costume jewelry, and the essay asked me if I knew what their pearls were made out of, and obviously I knew they were not real pearls. However, with regards to the pearls that they use for their fashion accessories or embroidery, they are apparently made out of glass. And she even showed me a sample. So you see these sticks, these long glass sticks. Basically, these are the type of glass they use to make the pearls. So basically, the glass is heated so that they will be expanded or reshaped into the shape they want to make it into, whether it be pearls, accessories, or even costume jewelry. According to the essay, generally this type of glass has a higher resistance than regular glass, so that it's not really that easy to shatter. And when it comes to the pearl color, they use a pearl coating to make different colors. According to the essay, Karl really loved the black and gray pearls. So although most of us know the white pearls as the iconic Chanel pearls, Karl actually preferred a more neutral black or gray pearl, which was really interesting to me. And as you know, a lot of the glass can also be used to make what you can see here as accessories, brooches, and even other costume jewelry. Next up, they moved me into this area where they showed some of the specialized camellias that are made by Chanel France. So apparently these are exclusively made in France and they're actually handmade. So I used to think that maybe they were kind of cut or machine made, but apparently they are all handmade petal by petal. And to make sure that each petal it has a consistent size, shape, and color, every camellia is made by one artisan. However, not every camellia will be exactly the same because it's handmade. So it has the uniqueness of the artist that has made the camellia that you see in the shops. As I mentioned, the petals are not machine made, but apparently they have some sort of a mold on a stick that is heated to shape and curl each petal by hand. Afterwards, they put the camellia together by hand. And basically the shape and arc of the petals, it's all handmade, and each one takes about 3 to 4 hours to make. And as I mentioned, because they're handmade, each one will have slight differences based on the artist that is making that specific camellia. Finally, we moved into the part called leather goods, and they displayed a couple of boxes whereby I opened up each box, and each box contained the hardware of different iconic bags, and they showed the accessories that they can repair. So if you're familiar with Chanel, you may be familiar with some of their bags and their accessories. So the first one that I opened was Le Boy bag, and you can see that they have accessories from the clasp to the chain of the bag. The second box contained the hardware for the 2.55 bag, or some of us know it as the reissue bag. So you can see there are some turn lock hardwares and also the chain. And finally, the last box contained the 11.12 bag, which we know as the classic flat bag. So you can see there is the turn lock and the chain for the bag. So basically that was the tour of the shop. I have a couple of more photos. You can see there's a photo here of me with one of the tables they used to serve the customers. And within that table, it must have had, I don't know, thousands of Chanel buttons. And if you do a close-up, you can see all the different Chanel buttons that Chanel has used over the years. Really intricate and really interesting. They also had another table where they had the camellias shown under the coffee table, so you can see different camellias. And of course, I took some photos in front of the tailoring area. There was a tailor that was working inside. However, they did not allow me to go inside that area, but I did think that it was an opportunity to take some photos. And you can see a wall of beautiful threads. And finally, I also took some pictures of some of the iconic bags they had on display in the shop. And finally, a couple more photos of me in the sofa area just to show kind of what the interior looks like. So here is the jacket that I took in to have some repairs. There were some loose strings and some loose buttons, and believe it or not, they came out with my jacket within something like 5 to 10 minutes. So it seemed like an easy job for them, but inside the interior of the jacket, I had some stitches that were coming off. So you can't see it very well in this, but basically there were some stitches that were coming off along the ends and the interior that had loosened up because I kept putting my arm through this hole and hitting some of the stitches. So they renewed a lot of the stitches along the edges, and also some of the buttons were quite loose. So they were able to immediately tighten up the buttons for me, because I'm always afraid that I'll lose the buttons, but Chanel can generally find buttons if you have lost them. And sometimes they give you extras when they sell the jacket to you in case you lose them. And as I mentioned, here is the chain along the bottom of the jacket, if some of you are familiar with a Chanel jacket. So it's not heavy, but it makes the Chanel jacket hang down properly so that it's properly weighted along the bottom so that the hem is not flapping up. So this is something you can only see from the inside of a Chanel jacket. And overall, I was really happy with the experience, because not only was I able to make some minor repairs to my jacket, for this jacket it was really minor because I had other jackets like the one I'm wearing that I had expanded everywhere from the armholes to the sleeves to the sides and the back to just expand it a bit, and they were able to do it really quickly. I had about a good 8 jackets that were basically expanded within a month's time, and that was really fast considering the amount of deconstruction they had to do. I still have one more jacket with the shop because there is a jacket that they want to find trimming for because they want to expand the jacket properly. So I'm currently waiting for Paris to confirm whether they have the parts for the trimmings so that they can expand the jacket. However, if they don't have the parts, they're going to have to be able to just expand the jacket without the trimmings. It might not be perfect, but it still makes the jacket wearable, which I'm really thankful for. So this was back in May and it's already October, so I'm really hoping that Paris will be able to find the trimming for that particular jacket, because it was also a very iconic jacket that they'll be able to take it back and add the trimming and expand the jacket for me. So fingers crossed, you guys. I really hope they will be able to get the trimming so that they can do the repairs and I can be able to go back to Chanel to pick up the jacket. So finally, some shots of the signage outside the Chanel et Moi Les Ateliers. Again, you cannot access this part of the shop without going via an essay because it's in a secure building within one of the top floors of a building in central Hong Kong. And again, it was a very super exclusive experience because they only have a few of these around the world. And basically, you can only get in by invitation or if you make an appointment for repairs. So if you're ever in Hong Kong or in Japan or even in London, you could try your luck with the essay to see if you can get an appointment, but generally they will only entertain you if you're there for a repair. I was really fortunate to get the tour because first of all, I had a lot of jackets that I had to get repaired, and also because I have known the manager and the essay of my shop in Hong Kong for a very long time, so they were willing to offer me the experience to go up to the shop, and I am so glad I got a chance to try that before I left Hong Kong, because obviously in Canada, yeah, we don't have access to that kind of thing. So thank you so much for joining me on my tour and experience of the Chanel et Moi Les Ateliers. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions, or if you've had any experience going to any of their ateliers, let me know down in the description box below. What I can finally say is that despite not shopping Chanel as much as I did in the past, I was pretty impressed by this experience. It really shows that they are making an effort to be able to stand by the quality of their items and to repair their items. And I was super impressed by the speed and the service by the manager of the shop that I've been with at Chanel for over a decade, and all the tailors, so professional and friendly, and they were able to do a rush job and a very good high quality job on all the alterations that I did. And in fact, I was so impressed that I actually bought the Chanel 22 small bag that you see in the background, and maybe you've seen in my unboxings, after having not shopped Chanel in a very long time. That's how impressed I was, and so far I've been pretty happy with the bag. And as usual, I've been really loving my ready-to-wear, especially during the days I have opportunities to wear it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this experience with me. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. And if you enjoy my videos, please feel free to like and subscribe. And you can also follow me on Instagram, where I tend to be a little bit more active. Thank you so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Have a great day and see you next time. Bye bye now.